Go into our speaking portion, and we have a wonderful guest today. You. Of the Peanut Gallery. Reverend Ronald Skowronski is a sought-after speaker and teacher at Lilydale Assembly for over 42 years. By age 18, Ron was immersed in spiritualism, and at 25, he was the youngest ordained spiritualist minister in the National Spiritualist Association of Churches. Wow. He pastored Plymouth Spiritualist Church in Rochester, New York from 1980 to 1990. Long noted as an authority on spiritualism, he is also a humorist and social activist. In 1999, he became an ordained minister with the United Church of Religious Science and teaches science of the mind. He is dedicated to working for a world that works for everybody. And he is here with us today. Thank you. Thank you, Ron.
My emotional support ghost. Never let me send my two other spirit guides to you, Guido and Raul. All they can talk about is kneecaps. Those are my protector guides. Good afternoon. It is a privilege, and I mean that most sincerely, to be with you. I have read on a number of occasions that this thing that is called the Rochester Spiritualist Society existed, and I said, well, that's interesting. Of course, this was after my reign of terror here in Rochester, New York, and because back in the day, there was, oh my gosh, Plymouth Spiritualist, and there was Church of Divine Inspiration. Some of you may remember the Reverend Marion Newby. She was the powerhouse, the force of nature of that church for many, many years. And I still believe that Reverend Aloma Kaysen is the minister there. And so we didn't, there wasn't as much diversity as exists today. And I'm just grateful that there is that kind of diversity, because we need it. We need it desperately. You know, one of the things that obviously is preying on our consciousness today has been over the past week is, of course, the tragedy, and it is a human tragedy in the Middle East. And you know, it's kind of funny. I've talked to a number of people, and I say funny. I'm obviously not saying humorous. It's more ironic than anything. But anytime we have such heinous circumstances anywhere on the planet, there is always the talk of, you know, blame and finger pointing and that horrible word, politics. And I've come to the conclusion that, you know, that obviously every single one of us, there's not a one person in this room who is not frustrated, meaning we want to do something. And unfortunately, part of spirituality, spiritual growth, spiritual evolution is the recognition that sometimes in the physical world, you can't do a thing. You can hold place. You can hold everyone in any tragedy in prayer. I know it's popular in secular society to say that prayer and good thoughts do nothing. But those of us who are immersed in metaphysics, in the metaphysics of prayer, the metaphysics of how thought works, know that that is that which one would wash a hog with. Hogwash. This will be the last time I meet with you. I don't have to be psychic to know that. And I thought to myself, you know, here we go again. Here we go again. Technically speaking, we are, I believe, human physical life, they say, began about 200,000 years ago. And in the context of recorded history, we seem to have a reasonable foothold on history for about 8,000 years. And there's two things that we inevitably do. Pound on each other mercilessly. And those who attend churches and other, quote, religious organizations and such, They pray for each other on Sunday and then turn and pray upon each other on Monday. We continue to immerse ourselves in the illusion, and it is an illusion, of what we in religious science, in science of mind, call the sense of separation. The sense of separation. That we are, though we appear to be individuals, we are God, infinite intelligence, first cause, ground of being, whatever term you choose to use. We are that, the all that is, individualized as you and me. That's why when I pray at times, especially if I'm in a situation where there needs to be a sense of unification, I pray that, that God is expressing itself to us, through us, as us. And we many times lose sense of that as us. It is why in the Eastern traditions, you hear it, and many times, we kind of accept it like it's old hat, but we really should reflect on it. We should embody it and embrace it, is namaste. The divine in me identifies and unifies with the divine in you. But unfortunately, we are, and I believe it was, I sometimes make a mess of this because, yes, I was the youngest spiritualist minister for a while, and now, as I've said to my wife on a number of occasions after 25 years of marriage, darling, when we met, I was a spring chicken. I am now a boiled fowl. And part of being a boiled fowl is you don't remember things the way they used to. But I remember, I think it was Descartes who said, we are spiritual beings who have chosen to have a human experience. And if it wasn't Descartes, I don't care. It's the message, not the messenger that's important. So here we are, but what are we doing? For at least 8,000 years, if not back to 200,000 years, we are affirming, we are making firm in our, call it your heart, call it your mind, ultimately what you would call your soul. We are making the affirmation we are separate, unique, apart. So we are consistently looking for how to be special, unique, different. And when we're special, unique, and different, we can get to be superior. And that means somebody has to be inferior. And we continue this endless loop again and again and again. And people are martyred, if you will. And I use that word with conviction for speaking truth to power, that we are not individuals. We are part of one universal, collective, infinite intelligence, a universal consciousness. We, if we have any spiritual maturity, understand what many in the Eastern traditions understand. Many refer to it as God is the great unknowable. We acknowledge that there is a power, a presence, a vibrancy, life itself, and it manifests itself. And some people identify it, as we have in our culture for now a couple of thousand years easily, in a patriarchal sense. Previous to that, and I don't need to tell you this, but I'm just going to gloss over it. It was done in many extremely more successful ways in a matriarchal sense. And then there's the groups that have founded themselves to recognize that there has to be a balance struck between those two differences, so to speak, that what appears to be a dichotomy are just two poles of the same reality, of the same dynamic. And so what we need to do when we feel powerless, when we need to feel isolated, alone, and unable to change things for the better, or as I was introduced, and that's part of my tradition now, we work for a world that works for everybody. No exclusions. Not one. If we can, but the only way to do that is the identification of unity. To begin to break down, and I believe our President Biden just spoke to this when he was at, I think, some event within the past 24 hours. We have to make a conscious personal responsibility. These are my words, not his. I don't want to misquote anyone. To break down the walls of hatred anywhere we find them. Buddha himself, by the way, Gautama the Buddha, said that true spirituality can only be defined by one thing, and that is the mitigation, the elimination of all suffering. So as spiritual beings who have chosen to have a human experience, our, I'm a Star Trek fan, the prime directive is to mitigate suffering. Not to see who's better, who's worse, who's different, who's special, unique. We are all different, special, unique. We must and again, there's, as you've seen it over the past, I'd say 4 to now it's turning into 8 years, this push me, pull you, the people who want plurality, justice, equity. I ran a soup kitchen in Rochester. I was the director of soup. Director of soup. I like to kind of think of it in religious terms. I was the high priest of soup at St. Joseph's House of Hospitality. I was the only non-Christian, much less non-Catholic soup kitchen director in its entire history. And I survived. But I learned it didn't matter. Rich, poor, sick, well. Again, the prime directive. We're all in this together. We all, and I love, I came that close to entering into the Roman Catholic priesthood. My mother would have been so proud. Yeah, you should have been there when I told her I was going to become a spiritualist minister. That was fun. But anyway, I quote a lot from, because it's my culturalization. I quote from Judeo-Christian scripture, not because I think it's the best. There's no such thing. It's all good. It's all good. But I love it. This one, and again, I paraphrase. I couldn't give you a chapter and verse, which is not particularly relevant. But this is something to impress upon your consciousness in order to demonstrate it in your day-to-day and in your larger life. If one is diminished, we are all diminished. And yet if one be raised up, we are all raised up. That is how intimately interconnected we are. You know, people, I have friends of mine, and I don't know much about this, but they follow all of these programs, these TV programs about extraterrestrials. And of course, it's my favorite, it's my own way of, my favorite joke. Anything you see on that one TV, I think, Ancient Aliens, it's like, and gray aliens like strawberry ice cream, and then the answer is always the same, and they do it 80 times in the program. Ancient alien theorists say yes. They never say no. So no matter what they say, it's always yes. But the point is that there is this sense of some of my Christian friends can't wait for Armageddon, can't wait for the apocalypse. They got nothing on the alien folks because the grays are coming, the greens are coming, the blues are coming, not to be confused with the reptilians, the amphibians, and so forth. And this is all, it's all, what I call end time philosophy. I don't even think it would qualify as a theology, but ultimately this notion that somehow or another something's going to come save us, and there are going to be winners and losers. And some are going to, and which is what I call the theology of any theology. Take any of them. If you have a theology of crime and punishment, you've got the wrong theology. You can't say God is love and then prove to yourself in your own activity and in the activity of the world that God is not love. It's either one or the other. You've read the bumper sticker. God, I'm really dating myself now, which is great because I'm pretty good company. You can't hug your children with nuclear arms. Okay? Or that the thing is, but the truth is, you cannot, and this is pure metaphysics, you cannot simultaneously think a positive and a negative thought. So the emphasis has to be on positivity, on affirming, making firm in what? In your consciousness, that which needs to occur. A sense of unification, an identification with the totality of being, an identification of being part of a greater whole, and really having as a matter of absolute, we used to call this, a minister, a friend of mine, he coined the phrase in the church I have a lot of involvement with, called it radical hope. If you look at the statistics, in other words, all of the things that, statisticians, the people who do the numbers crunching and the analyzing of sociology, anthropology, psychology, and so forth, may I be blunt? We're screwed. It's over. Global warming, tipping point, train left. We're done. The bumblebee is aerodynamically ill-suited to flight. If you match its body mass, its wingspan, and every aspect of its totality of its being, it has, by all the laws of aerodynamics, physics, etc., it cannot fly. Cannot. The bumblebee, however, does not recognize this and chooses to fly anyway. And from a spiritual perspective, that's what I believe we are called to do. I'm old. I can't do this. I'm too young. I'll let the elders. What would the elders say? You are the only person you can change. We will never change the world. Not a one of us. We will never change our parents, our children, friends, family. None of it. But if you change yourself in consciousness, in the expectation that you are God demonstrated as you, not in an arrogant sense, that's not its point, but in a humble sense, that we are honored to be agents of the divine right here and right now. The past, ignore it. It cannot be changed. It's dust in the wind. The future is what you make, and the only time that exists. We were joking about it, that time is a man-made construct, and so it is. But there is truly only one time, the eternal now. So what you have as a locus of focus, right here, right now, moment to moment, it's what they call mindfulness. You're not unfamiliar with the concept. But if you are mindful that you are right here, right now, doing the most positive expectation of good and only good, focus not on what was, focus not on some far-off dreamscape, but know right here and right now you are good and only good, and that power, that presence, that infinite intelligence demonstrates itself to you, through you, as you, and do your level best, 1 minute at a time, 1 moment at a time, 1 day at a time, to accept your divinity, to know that you are divine and that you are here for a divine purpose. And that divine purpose is your choice, by the way. What angers you? Abused children? Hunger? Whatever it is. That's the part of you that is what I call the Holy Spirit saying, hey, it's part of why you're here. Go do something. Doesn't have to be big. People say, it's too big a problem. No such thing. In of yourself, you do no good thing. It is the spirit in you, the totality of being, that actually does the work, but it needs a vessel. It needs a vehicle. Pardon me. Vodka break. It needs, what's that? Oh, thank you, candy. I used to work for peanuts, but anyway, it needs, you've heard, and this is a real old school, people say, you're the only hands God has. You're the only feet God has. You're the only being that can do something. And the truth is, that's always the way it's ever been. Pope Francis, whom I really have a deep appreciation for, because though I am no longer part and parcel of the Church of Rome, I think he's a man who really has a better handle on metaphysics than I've ever seen in previous And my mother really liked that nice Polish boy who made good.
See? That could have been you!
Yes, Mom, I know. He said, when it came right down to it, that we pray, and the truth about prayer, by the way, it has nothing to do with changing, quote, God's mind. It has to do about developing and maturing your consciousness so that you can sit down, shut up, and listen to that still small voice within that is the guiding force that will guide you to do what you need to do, what you have on a spiritual dynamic chosen to do, so that you can be the best vessel and vehicle, the best willing agent for the divine to, again, co-create a world that works for everybody. Now, we talk about spirit return. And this lovely lady who came up earlier today was a very beautiful sharing, and I thank you so much. And I must tell you, there are times to this day, 25 years old, youngest ordained spiritualist minister. Well, now it's 67. I'm a very tired man in some instances because I have seen that no matter how I have tried, and how many of you can probably identify this, there used to be this old expression, to those who believe, no more proof is necessary. No more proof. But to those who don't believe, no amount of proof will ever be enough. And yet with the barrage of a sense of separation and the belief in the other and the war and rumors of war and all the cacao, and now some in the metaphysical world, and I tend to be one of them, by the way, who believes this is the birthing of the new age. This is the birthing of another time. We may not, as physical beings, live to see the fruits of the seeds that we are planting, but we are here to do that planting. We are here to remind people. We are here to encourage people. And we can't do it in the old school way, by trying to convert people. We can only encourage people through attraction, not compulsion, not, any of the other ways that other family members have come along saying, you know what you need? No. Nobody needs a good talking to. Everybody needs a good listening to. But here's the thing. I asked myself a few years ago, I said, I can't prove this anymore. Not that I can't continue to do what I've done, but I basically said, the systems are crumbling. It looks like things are not getting better for us to go out and do the kind of work we needed to do and to say the things we needed to say to affect the changes that need to be made for this new consciousness to arise. And yet I am deeply committed and amazed that when Spirit comes through many times, you hear that God works in mysterious ways. Well, Spirit is our word for God. So Spirit works in mysterious ways. And it occurred to me, okay, a lot of people are still doing it, and I would continue to encourage it being done. It needs to be done. Spirit mediumship. I call it what it used to be called, divine healing, or what we used to call this before we just called it a church service, called divine service. There was a sacramental quality, if I may use that word, to what we do. And yet, as time has gone on and people have become less and less religious and less willing to participate in communities of, quote, believers or hopefully soon to be believers, how do we spread the message? How do we spread more comfort to the bereaved? How do we spread this gospel, this good news that there is no death, there are no dead? Well, as I said a minute ago, I began to feel frustrated. And then it hit me, and it hit me the hardest, I believe, this year in Lilydale Assembly. We had two people come that I thought were, I knew it was not, you've heard the word, an accident or a coincidence. I believe they were there by divine right action. One was Dr. Raymond Moody, who in 1975, by the way, quoted the term near-death experience, has been writing, researching, and promoting not quote the experience, but everything that comes out of that experience, and actually now, especially now, spiritualizing it so that it can be absorbed by those people who basically, my father was, by the way, one of them, who referred to what we do as hocus pocus. And I'd walk out the door, hocus pocus? Yeah, Dad, hocus pocus. Off to church. And then we had Eben Alexander, neuroscientist, neurosurgeon. If that man doesn't know anything and everything about the human brain, how it functions and how it relates to consciousness, at least within our nation, nobody does. But what they came forth and said, you know what? People are becoming less and less religious. In fact, even this, and I love the term, I'm spiritual, I'm not religious, means I don't go to church and you're not getting my money. I get it. It's cool. Live and let live. But if we are to comfort the bereaved especially, I am now spending a lot of my time, I hand out books. I give them a copy of Life After Life, or a copy of, I don't remember the title of Eben Alexander's book. I think Heaven is for Real. I may be messing that up, so please forgive me if I've done that. But anyway, and what they're doing is they're reading and you know, spiritualism has always said it's a religion, it's a science, and it's a philosophy. The problem with the science is it's not empirical science. You can't produce this on demand. You think you can, but you can't. It has a spontaneity all of its own, and if we're honest with ourselves and with the world, you can't turn it on every single moment like a traditional scientific experiment and expect it, you know, and that's why you had back in the day, and even in this day, you had an enormous amount of fraud in spiritualism. And the reason you had the fraud is these people were under the gun. Not all of them, some of them. Some of them were legitimately bad players, and they hurt the movement desperately. But the good players even were, in quotation marks, caught with their knickers down a little bit once in a while, because they were on demand. On demand. So they couldn't get up in front of 1,000 people and suddenly go, you know, I ain't feeling it today. You know, walk away. Couldn't be done. But here's the thing. Here are these scientists, hardcore empirical scientists, who are saying, you know what? Stuff he's been talking about for 170 some years, whew, they're right. Can't say anything else but. You know, down the tunnel, light, life review. I mean, I don't have to be preaching that to you. You know what I'm talking about. The point is, it's being proven scientifically. So we don't have to get up like, you know, evangelical preachers, if you will, and try to, you know, talk about God, talk about infinite intelligence. All we have to do is present the facts. So that, because, and you, I don't know if any of you on Facebook, you're probably, I know I am, I'm a member of all the, not all, but some of the, pardon me, the ones that, you know, these people, they write and talk about life after death, and some of them are so heartbreaking, it's amazing. They've lost a mom or a child or their dog of 20 years or whatever, and they're asking the same question Job in the Old Testament asked. If a man dies, does he live again? It is amazing to me that in 2023, how many people know nothing or next to nothing, because they're either scared out of their wits to approach the subject, or there's been so much theological misinformation that they're scared to deal with it because they're taught it's somehow evil and demonic and so forth. And these people are going, you think I'll ever see my son again? And these are, and again, some of these are the same people who you'd never be, pardon my bad pun here, they wouldn't be caught dead in a church. They're not church. They never were, or they never will be, rather, for whatever reasons. Irrelevant. What's relevant is you're ready. You're ready. You've got the skills, the communication skills, and you find the tools you need so that you can at least introduce them to this in such a way that will be not threatening, not and that you can educate, and then maybe later, there can be a discussion of God and so forth and so on. So, in a nutshell, how'd you like the beginning of my sermon?
Like it.
He's preaching now. Stop him.
Don't make me use this. I would encourage all of you who have the slightest inclination to help family, friends, co-workers. Again, you're not going to go on a street corner. This is, we do everything we do by attraction, not compulsion or impulsion, but to help people and to as I said in my prayer about the Middle East, to hold space with them. You don't have to say anything, you don't have to do anything, but first hold space with them. And then if the subject of a life after death does come up, you've got some extra tools that are, that you may not have even thought you had, because those of us who get involved with this on a spiritual level or a quote religious level, we've had the proof, we've had the comfort, and we've chose to gather to support each other, because like Ram Dass says, that's one of the prime purposes of our human experience. We're trying to learn how to walk each other home. We've got that. It's a blessing, it's a gift. Go forth and share that gift with others, but do it in a way that will bring you, I think, not just more satisfaction, but you can do it in the ease of a way that people will not feel put upon, because there's nothing worse than a preacher. Nothing worse. And I will leave you with one bit of humor, because that is kind of a trademark for me. You have any objections?
Yeah.
Okay. Catholic joke. Not a bad one. Small group of children are walking down the hall, and the priest is walking, and he's wearing his, almost like me, his minister's costume, and his priest costume, and he's got a cleric's collar. And so one of the little boys starts to snicker, and the priest says, "Excuse me," he says, "There's something funny?" He says, "Yeah, you dress funny." He goes, "Really?" He says, why do you dress so funny?" "Well, I'm a priest." He says, "Well, what's that around your neck?" He goes, "Well, that's called a cleric's collar. Does anybody have any idea what that is and what it does, or what it means?" And another little boy says, "Yeah, I do. What? And so the priest, "Okay, go ahead. What does it do?" He says, "Well, I don't know, but it sure looks like it might keep fleas and ticks at bay for 6 months." It has been a privilege to be with you. If I've bored you, go have a drink after you're done. But I hope that I've given you a few things to think about, a little bit of humor to lighten your day. And again, it's been truly an honor to be with you. I bid you peace.
Thank you.